Good afternoon, everyone. It's Gary Sly and the Legacy of Handmade Objects. It's Monday afternoon, December the 22nd. Here in downtown Leesburg, things are starting to quiet down a little bit. I suspect there are still some panicked shoppers running around the malls and the big box stores, but things get pretty quiet here in small town America this time of year. I've had a couple customers in the shop today. I'm open on Mondays from 1 to 5 during the winter, and a couple folks had eyed things earlier that they wanted for gifts, so seen a little bit of that. But for me, mostly in the shop, this is the time of year when I start putting together projects and ideas that I've been trying to get to throughout the year. December 26th, next week, marks my 1-year anniversary here in the old house. If you're interested in any of that, you can go back and look at some of those videos as I was preparing to move in and as we were going through some of the growing pains of getting into this old place. Got some exciting ideas and some things I want to try to get to in 2026, but we'll kind of look at those later. My goal today is to talk some about the projects that I've been involved in this year, kind of review 2025 and celebrate some of the fun that I've had with stitching and needlework during this time. I was starting to get a little sleepy, so I've got a box of Handmade Christmas Nougat here next to me, and I had to put the top back on it because I was afraid I would eat the whole box. So let's just kind of dive in. At the beginning, you saw, you saw a collage of some of the projects that I've done. Most of those are finishes during the year, but there's still always a few that kind of lap over from one year to the next, and some may last even longer than that before they get finished. Speaking of long-term projects, I did finally finish the 50 state quilt this year that I began when my oldest son was a baby, and he's going to be turning 35 this year, so you can see that that's one of the longest term projects that I've had. I do have one other that's even older than that, and I'll show that to you sometime. But I did cross stitch all 50 squares and finished all the stitching and pieced it all together, did all the quilting by hand. Most recently did the edging and sewed a sleeve on the back so that it could hang on a rod. I'm not going to show that today because it's all packed up and ready to go to the state fair down near Tampa. The first week in January, I'm going to go down and drop it off, and hopefully everything will go well, and I'll go pick it up sometime later in February. We'll get it back in time so that I can also display it at the county fair here in Lake County in the March fair that we have here. I often encourage people to think about putting your things in fairs. I think it's a good way for the general public to know that we're still out here doing this sort of stuff. I'm aware that people sometimes are a little nervous about their precious objects, and certainly if that's something you're scared of, don't do it. But I've been to the county fair a number of times, and they're very conscientious about how they deal with things, and I don't have any doubt that the state fair folks will be just the same. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. I don't expect to win any awards because I don't think my quilting is the best quality in the world, but I'm mighty proud of it, and I think the 250th anniversary of the country is a real good time to do that. Another thing you'll see me talking about some as we head into the new year is a community project here locally where we're going to put together a quilt, but you'll see that evolve as we get into 2026. I talk quite a bit about legacies here on this channel and as I talk about stitching in general. And there were 4 pieces this year that I completed for someone else. Pieces that somebody had started or that somebody had hoped to work on, and for one reason or another, life just didn't allow them to do that. The one that I had the longest was a woodland scene in crewel embroidery. A friend of mine, Ann, who lives in a nursing home in Alabama, contacted me probably a year and a half ago Really wanted this piece done. She had found the kit, which is pretty unusual. It was from the 1970s. She'd found the kit. She remembered doing it once, and for some reason it had been lost, and she was just really hoping somebody would stitch it for her. Don't really know how she got in touch with me, but I had a wonderful time working on it and shipped it off to Ann, and her plan was to have it framed and stretched and taken care of there where she lives in Alabama. So that was a very satisfying project, pretty long term. It probably took maybe 15 months to do that one. You can also look back at videos and see the other 3 that I worked on. The next one that probably took a little more time was Testuco Plantation, which is a site down in Louisiana near New Orleans. My friend had done a good bit of work on it, but still needed some of the really fun finishing pieces that needed to be done and a lot of the back stitch. I find that pretty common, that people get working on rather complex projects, and when they get to the back stitch, they're either kind of overwhelmed by it or they just don't like doing it anyway. And so that's when they start searching for somebody else to look for it. I haven't been coughing all day, but I think eating that sugar has made me cough a little bit. So inevitably, that's what happens when you get on the screen and start talking. So I finished up Testuco Plantation and framed that nicely for a friend. 2 others that didn't take very long. My friend Nancy, who lives here in Florida, had begun a Christmas stocking for her grandson Jack. And she really had done most of it, but I think she'd gotten a little off count and gotten a little frustrated. And so I was able to finish that up, get it off to her in time so that she could get somebody to finish it and get it to grandson Jack for Christmas. And the final piece I just finished framing, and Jane, my friend, came and picked it up a couple days ago, was a winter scene with skaters. Very much reminiscent of the past century, or actually the 19th century for that matter. And that was very satisfying too. Didn't take a whole lot of work. Jane is one of those that just doesn't like to do cross stitch. So the next thing I was busy with for part of the year were special projects that I did with family members or friends in mind, and they were special things that I wanted to do for them. If you remember a bit, you know that I did a cross stitch of my brother's beloved pet, Pepper, his dog, who passed away last fall. My brother turned 65 in September, and I was able to do a nice cross stitch rendition of Pepper and get that to him in time for his birthday. It plays up the love I have for those full coverage pieces where you can take a digital photo and turn it into a design. So that was a lot of fun. And then we're heading off to a wedding in February, a cousin of my friend. We're going down to South Florida for that. Sam and Nevaeh are getting married. And I did a wedding sampler for them, and it's already been delivered, and I have a cute picture of the 2 of them with the wedding sampler, and as I understand it, they've already hung it on the wall. So I was very pleased to be able to do that. Got another family wedding coming up later in 2026, so I'll have to get started on another wedding sampler here soon. Probably won't show that off in advance, but at some point you'll get to see the finished product for that too. I love doing stitching projects and completing objects that have people in mind. I like to tell them that when I'm working on a piece for someone, it's pretty easy for me to be thinking about them every time I make a stitch. And I think that mindfulness and that caring for somebody is a part of why we love to stitch in a whole lot of ways. So those are all things that have finished and for the most part taken off to other parts. The quilt, as I mentioned, will be going down to the state fair. There are always projects that we get going on and we're real excited about, and then we hit a roadblock. You've seen me talk a couple of times about this majestic lace piece by my friend Arlene from ABC stitch works. I love this design. I found that stitching on that dark purple fabric is quite a challenge. And the problem with stitching on that dark purple fabric on 32 linen over 2 with a very complex design and no color changes is that I've made a few counting mistakes along the way. Now, normally when you make a small counting mistake, you can kind of make up for it in the next row and nobody will ever know the difference. But as you can see, this is concentric circles. And the middle part builds on the next row, and there's another row after this. And so unfortunately, some of the counting errors that I made, I'm having to kind of continue to make adjustments for as I go along. Now I'm convinced that nobody but me will ever know the difference when the piece is finished, and it'll be magnificent as it's called, and I'll be pleased with it. But being a little bit of a perfectionist, and some of you can probably identify with this, there's been times when I've gotten kind of frustrated with it. There's no way I can go back and pick out all the parts where there are issues because I don't even really know where they happened. And it's a very complex piece, and it's one that is still going to take a good bit of time and work to do. So unfortunately, that means that Majestic Lace has kind of been sidelined a little bit. I absolutely think that I will finish it, but I just have to get in that kind of mood. You know, I talked about those kind of issues when I reviewed the book, Craft Psychology, a number of weeks back. And she cautions in that book that you need to have a lot of different kind of projects going on, because you will lose patience, or you will find yourself frustrated with one thing. And sometimes it's better just to lay that down and pick it up again some other time. So Majestic Lace is going to be in the to be finished pile for now, and we'll see if it makes it to the finished pile by the end of 2026. I had a spell there where I finished a whole bunch of big projects all at one time, really kind of put me in a panic, and I had to find some new things to work on. And of course, I've got a lot of projects, but the other thing I haven't talked about too much on here is how hard it is to get started on something. Probably the hardest part of any stitching is getting the setup ready and getting everything lined up and getting ready to start. Now, I know some of you are much more organized than I am, and when you buy a pattern that you know you want to do, you go ahead and get the fabric and you put all the threads together in a project bag and you have everything ready to work. My friend Carol, who's been a mentor for me, brought by some project bags with the projects all ready to go that she had put together some years back. Carol's got macular degeneration, and some of those projects she can't get to anymore. But I'm not that organized. Honestly, I have projects that I know I want to do. I have kits that I know I want to open and organize the threads and do everything that needs to be done. But that doesn't mean that it's easy or it's something that I look forward to. So something that I've been wanting to work on for a long time is a Christmas tree skirt, a really nice counted cross stitch one. I showed some of this off last time. I'm making some progress on this. It's a very easy, satisfying kind of stitching to do because it's on 14 count. And the colors are nice and bright, and you can see I've got a good bit of Santa Claus done there. There are 15 of these Santa Clauses, and this is a full yard of 14 count Aida. So it's going to take a while for me to do that, and that's certainly fine. I like long projects, but I'm finding this very satisfying, except that I'm having a hard time figuring out what to do with that yard of fabric. So that it doesn't get dirty or messed up. So that's a new one that I've started. I try not to set deadlines because I think I get frustrated and get dissatisfied when I do that. So I certainly didn't have any intention of doing it for this year for Christmas. And I'm not really too worried about which Christmas it gets finished for. I suspect it's something that I'll keep for myself unless I find a worthy recipient maybe sometime in the future. Another ongoing project that I've spent many years on are some chair cushions, and I'll just show you one here. I'll get up and step behind me and pick one up and show you. Needlepoint chair cushions. I did 4 of these using William Morris designs. Beth Russell is a famous needlepoint designer in England. She has a couple of books that use William Morris designs, and I used one of her earlier books to create 4 needlepoint cushions using birds. And that's one I just showed you. Well, I don't know what it is, but one of the more famous William Morris designs are the strawberry thief, the bird that has the strawberry in its mouth, and I did one of those. So anywho, 4 of the chairs are done. They've got the bright blue background like you just saw, and there are birds. Well, I wanted to do the other 4. They're, the cushions are leather, the leather's got some nicks and holes in it, and so for quite a few years, ever since I bought those 8 chairs, I wanted to do the other 4. I started doing some florals, again using William Morris designs, but nothing really captured my attention. But then I found another Beth Russell book on needlepoint using William Morris designs, and I fell in love with a series of 4 fruits: lemons, oranges, pomegranates, and peaches. And this has been a lot of fun. I've really been working pretty steadily on these over the last few weeks. There's the lemon one pretty much finished. Now I've got a very pale kind of yellow-green background that I'm going to use for this one. And I'll do all the back stitching using the basket weave stitch on this, and then I'll do some work putting it onto the cushions. Prior to having my own workshop, I had to have somebody else put these on the cushions for me, but now that I have a framing area myself, I think I can stretch them and work on those pretty well. So I've already finished the lemon, and I've made really good progress on the oranges. So there's the one that's got the oranges. This has got a nice little orange bud over here, and of course there are a bunch more leaves and things. So you'll see a finished one of that as I get there. And as you may know, if you've done needlepoint, it's very satisfying because it goes quite quickly. Designs are not too complex, and counting needlepoint is nowhere near as hard as some of the cross-stitch patterns that we encounter as we look around. So I'm really enjoying that, and I do have one of the florals that I had started, and I've decided rather than turning it into a cushion, I'm just going to frame it. So I don't have too much work left to do on that one, where I'll finish up the background and just block that and get it ready to be framed. So you'll see that one when it's done as well. So I guess I'm kind of in a needlepoint phase right now. I did a lot of quilting last year, did a lot of cross stitch last year. Have a couple cross stitch pieces as you see here that I'm certainly going to keep working on, but really finding needlepoint very satisfying right now. For me, it's good to be able to jump between the different mediums. That crewel piece that I spent a lot of time on last year was very satisfying. Hadn't done crewel in a large way since back in the 80s, maybe 90s. So, you know, if that's the kind of thing you like, jumping around even from one medium to the other, not necessarily even from one design to another, is just a lot of fun. And, you know, if you like needlepoint, I would encourage you to expand beyond the expensive painted canvases. They're quite satisfying and they're quite lovely, but there's so many other things you can do with needlepoint. You can take most cross-stitch designs and do them on needlepoint canvas. So a lot of options there that I don't know if everybody thinks about all the time. And sometimes needlepoint can be a nice relaxing alternative to more complex pieces. Well, I'm heading out to the store here in a little bit. I've got a few more things I need to buy for my Christmas dinner. Already got a ham ready to cook. Planning a few side dishes and a nice yummy dessert. People have been bringing me cookies and snacks and stuff all week, so unfortunately I have dulled my appetite quite a few days here with some decadent desserts and treats that have come in. And it's been a lovely time seeing people come in, and we had a nice staff luncheon today at a local restaurant. So there's just a lot of fun things happening, and it's a pleasant time of the year. I hope for you, even if there are things that make this holiday difficult or sad, that you're also able to find comfort and peace, and that the bells of Christmas and the memories of Hanukkah last week and all the joys and such of this year are something that you can celebrate. Look forward to seeing you after Christmas. I'm going to take some time then and talk about some ideas I have for new projects for 2026. And then we're going to bounce into a new year and see what happens then. As always, this is Gary Sly, and it's the legacy of Handmade Objects.